Welcome to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9 FM. Rose and Womble Realtor Paul Fuquay is here to share market facts, the fundamentals of selling, buying, owning, and improving your home, plus interesting experts. Now, here is Paul.
Thank you, Dino, for the lead-in. This is Paul Fuquay, and I'm welcoming you to the Real Estate PB&J Hour. Today, we're going to talk about the actual impact on housing prices, both buying and selling, and the other elements to be somewhat concerned about if we need to be, based on the current economic situation in the U.S. and in our area. We would like to dispel as much as possible the many myths and misstatements which seem to fill the airwaves today about the state of the housing market and the impact of interest rates that have risen, not precipitously, but have risen. And, of course, the inflationary pressures on all people and their cost of living in not only in Hampton Roads, but definitely throughout the United States. And then later, we're going to touch on a starker exchange and its tax ramifications and the new rules that have been enacted. Our third, I'm joined today by the wonderful Kim Pimento, who is the managing broker of the Greenbrier office of Rose and Womble, and we will be joined as soon as he gets out of that horrendous traffic by my good friend and fellow colleague at Rose and Womble, Bob Freck. I haven't introduced myself. I'm Paul Fuquay. I've been a realtor for 25 years. I've practiced solely out of the halls of Rose and Womble. And I've been very fortunate to help an awful lot of people, hundreds and hundreds of people over the years, both sell a property, and I've helped a significant number of people, equally as significant and numerous, find homes that they are living in or have lived in, and then have allowed me to sell them afterwards. As I mentioned before, my co-host today is the wonderful, extraordinary Kim Pimento, and I want to thank her for filling in for me last week while I was in Dallas, Texas, learning how to be a cowboy. She and her guest, Lisa Chandler, and Lisa's title is?
Yeah, she is the president of Rose Womble Chandler Property Management, LLC. And
you and she covered a lot of things related to property management and the benefits of allowing a professional to oversee any rental properties that you may own or wish to own. Today, we're going to discuss the real estate market in a conversational mode from the perspective of full-time realtors engaged in the daily assessment of the actual market area here in Hampton Roads. Between Bob and myself, and we're much older than Kim, we've got well over a half a century of experience, and Kim adds quite a number of years, but her looks belie it. Anyway. Yeah. This hour is all about the fun. 18 years?
Yeah, 18 years, wow. 2004.
You must have started right out of high school.
Yes, I did.
This hour is all about the fundamentals of real estate and what you can do to maximize your ownership, buying, and selling power. If you'd like to talk to me or Kim or Bob when he gets here, the number is 757-497-1310. 757-497-1310. You can call me directly at 449-7463, also 757-449-7463. And if you have any questions, please call us, 757-497-1310. We will continue to try and make this show relaxed. We want to be able to offer opinions and experiences which can help you in the process of either selling or buying your home or a new home, and what elements can protect your interests, and what is most important in striking a mutually acceptable agreement between you and the other parties in a real estate transaction. Now, the market is in flux. It is always volatile. And the dynamics of the market change almost daily in today's economy. And Kim, you've got some statistics on the housing market, both national and, more importantly, local.
I do. Would you like to start out with the rates? I have those.
Okay, yeah, may as well.
Okay, are y'all ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, I don't know if I was ready to open this one. Okay, conventional, 6% with 1.75 points. Remember, a point is 1% of the contract price, or the loan amount. I'm sorry, the loan amount. The loan amount. I always think of contract price and loan amount's the same, but it's not always.
Right.
Okay, so remember, a point is 1% of the contract. I mean, the loan amount. The loan amount. Okay, even I'm confused on that today. Anyway, so conventional 6%, 1.75 points. Conventional investment 6.625%, 2.25 points. Non-conforming 5.5% with 1 point, and FHA 5.875 with 1 point, and VA 5.625 1 point. And that is based on somebody with a pretty good credit score, 750 or a little, at least 700, and they have the reserves and fully qualify.
Okay. Remember, those numbers can sound scary after all these past 7 years where we've had these ridiculously low interest rates. We've been very fortunate. These don't shock me. I can remember celebrating when I got a loan mortgage for 7.5%. Thought that I was doing very well. And that's not that long ago. I also have memories of when it was 17%. So, folks, interest rates fluctuate. They're predicated on a lot of factors. We've discussed those. We will have bankers back in here again later in the season to talk about why interest rates rise and fall as they do on the tide of the economy. And the other thing is the demand for money has lessened because there aren't as many people out there buying at this moment.
Right.
And the bankers make their living based on selling you money. It's like lettuce. So they're going to find ways to make it possible for you to make that purchase. You may well pay a little more up front in terms of interest. And remember, your payments, your monthly mortgage payments are heavily weighted towards interest in the first 7 to 8, 9 years. So it becomes important, and that is where the largest amount of money can be immediately spent in the increase in a mortgage payment because it's all interest. All right, I'm sorry.
Right.
Go ahead. Right. There's more stuff on the local. I don't want to get on my soapbox about interest.
Yeah, but you can also make just one payment a year extra and pay the loan off early.
Sure.
So there's ways you can do that.
And there's also refi. And lenders love refis.
Yeah. So in August 2022, the market summary, and I got this from RAIN, which is our the Real Estate Information Network. So active listings for August went down 7.84%. Pending sales in August 2022 went down 20.5%.
Is that month to month or year to year?
This is year to year.
Wow.
Yeah, it went down. Pending sales of August 2022 was 2,820, and August of 2021 was 3,547.
Right.
So settled sales went down 18.41%, and new construction sales went down 6.25%. The interesting thing is the median sales price went up 6.39%. So the median sales price in August 2021 was $297,000, and August 2022 was $315,990.
That's a very telling statistic because we see that as a consequence of the continued small number of homes on the market. If you compare it to 3 years ago, I mean it's half. It's less than half of what was on the market in 2019. That was pre-pandemic.
Yes.
And, of course, remember also, we as realtors are very accustomed to seeing a slowdown in the market in the late July and August. For that matter, it was really relatively slow out on the street in June. Mm-hmm. And June, we try and use a 60-day closing period as a norm. So if you don't have a lot of sales in June, you don't have a lot of closings in August. That's just the way it is. And we're at that dead time in the market right now.
Right.
School has just begun, and what we'll see is a flood of people, and hopefully it'll be a flood. I don't think it's going to be torrential, but we'll see a flood of people coming back into the market as potential buyers right after the second week or third week of school.
Correct.
We found some stuff, and I put it up. a lot of people during the heyday, during the hot times, decided, at least we think a lot of people, it seems a lot of people, to for sale by owner their properties.
Correct.
I have a very good friend who asked me for a comparative market analysis and study, and it was a second home that he had that had been a rental property, and he wanted to convert it into cash, and so I gave it to him, fully thinking that I would be selling the property. Well, he put a sign up, and he set the price 10% below what I'd set him, and he sold it in 3 days, and was very happy. I wasn't,
Right.
but giving up 10%, didn't.
Who wants to give up 10%?
Well, he did. But, the statistics show, according to the National Association of Realtors, you've got them.
Yeah, it says that for sale by owners accounted for 7% of home sales in 2020. This typical for sale by owner home sold for $260,000 compared to $318 for agent-assisted home sales. So that's gap enough to compensate for the agents and some of the other fees, for sure. The for sale by owners methods used to market the home, they did not actively market their home. About 34% of them did not market at all. 26% of them put a sign in the yard. Friends, relatives, or neighbors were, I don't know, was that stat meaning that they
solicited this friends, neighbors?
Oh, okay. 23% of them solicited their friends, relatives, and neighbors. And then 18% put them in the MLS service. You can pay sometimes for some real estate companies to just have it listed, but you handle everything else from there.
It's a one-time fee, and you handle any and all negotiations, any and all schedules, any and all advertising.
All calls.
It's all calls. It's all on your lap. And there is the only issue that I have with that is a safety consideration, because if somebody calls and wants to come see the house, you don't have any buffer. You have no filter. And they show up at the front door to see your house. And who are they? They have not been vetted. And that's one thing an agent is going to do, because an agent has not going to spend his or her time taking people out there who are not qualified and or not legitimate buyers.
Correct.
Anyway, some of these people use video.
Yeah,
right?
4% of them took videos, 3% took virtual tours. And by the way, talking about virtual tours, that's something that we agents pay for.
Yep.
That doesn't come out of the pockets of the sellers. We pay for all of our advertising. Virtual tours aren't cheap. Those are $250, $300, and you add other type of internet costs that come with all that.
Well, I know what I do, and this is what I do on every one of my listings, regardless of the list price. I do aerials by drone, so that we know where the property is positioned in the neighborhood. I do a virtual tour. I do panoramic shots. I do a 3D shot. And then I'll do a walk-around video if I consider it necessary to explain things. And I use professionals to do that. I do not try and do that myself.
Well, today, with all the pictures out there, you need professionals. It's so obvious when you don't use professionals. But with the walk-around tour, you have to have one of those for it to go on Zillow. And now it has to be approved Zillow photographer.
Yeah, I know.
And everybody loves those walk-on tours. So you can put your finger on there.
Well, that's what that's the Matterport. That's what I have. Mm-hmm. You can scroll and you can go up and look at the ceiling, go down, and there's a circle, and you can go over to the circle and look in the next room, and it gives you a dollhouse configuration, and it gives you measurements of every room, and it's the most expensive element. It takes 3 hours to in a large house to do, because every room has to be photographed in 3D. It's amazing. Yes. I love the stuff, but it's not we make a lot of money on a big sale. That's the reality of real estate. So it's money well worth spent.
Yeah. Marketing, pictures, professional pictures is very much.
The whole sale initially is visual today.
The only thing I don't, with the photographers, is sometimes they do use a very wide angle lens. So you really have, some of them you have to kind of take that into consideration when looking at the pictures. Mm-hmm. Rooms won't be quite as large when you get there in person.
Yeah. But what we do in my practice is, if I have a house that's vacant, we do the entire photography, and then we come back and we virtually stage every key room, and we position the empty room next to the virtually staged. And I'm given a choice when the virtual staging is being done. What kind of furniture? Is it traditional? Is it contemporary? Is it Gothic? Is it, what do you want? Is it Americana, country, rustic? And it's a lot of fun to do that virtually.
Yeah, and that technology has come a long way. When they first started it,
it was terrible.
It didn't look good, but now it really does look good.
It has to be disclosed to the MLS out there in the real world that you're going to go in to a house that isn't staged, doesn't have furniture. But that's why we put one next to the other. Anyway, all right. For sale by owners. It's every person's right to sell his or her house by himself or herself, and I commend people who undertake to be in competition with us. I'm a competitor. I've always been that, and it's always a joy to have somebody tell me, well, I'm going to save the 3%. And I said, that's wonderful. I think that's phenomenal. Welcome to my world. And I don't know if you have the contacts and the experience to do it, but if you do, all the more power to you. There's always another one coming down the street.
Yes, for sure.
What do they think is the most difficult thing for them for sale by owners? I've never tried to sell anything.
Preparing or fixing up your home for sale.
Yeah.
Probably finding the contractors and knowing what you should do and shouldn't do. Some things you probably should just leave.
Right.
I mean, you're not going to make a perfect house if you've lived there for any length of time. Getting the right price, 14%. Understanding performing paperwork, 11%. Selling within the planned length of time, 5%. Some people just don't want to use a for sale by owner. They just don't want to deal directly with the owners. Having enough time to devote to all aspects of the sale, 5%. Attracting potential buyers, 3%. And helping buyers obtain financing.
It's not many buyers are going to turn to a seller and to help finance unless it's a seller finance property.
Right.
I've actually sold a number of those at times when they were more commercial than residential. What about the actives? How many we have on the market now?
Oh, today we have, as of today, Paul, very good. You got on there, September 16th. We have 4,095 active residential listings, which are 3,332 of those are single family, and 761 are those are detached homes.
Okay.
On the MLS today.
Now, the last time I did this, it was 2 weeks ago before I went down to Dallas. Mm-hmm. So, let's see. What did we have?
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, our count was 4,157, so we've gone down a little bit. Our single families were 3,374, which we've gone down a bit there, and the attached was 797, so we've gone down a little bit there. So our inventory is getting low again, which is one of the reasons that our prices are staying up there. And we are seeing houses linger on the market a little bit more and more closing costs paid, but I still think that we've got a pretty good market. And of course, if your house is location, and condition, we're still seeing several offers on the same home with competitive bids. 2 weeks ago, this decreased. So 2 weeks ago, we've gone down from there from our inventory, and this decrease was about 1.5%. So it's not real. It's not significant, I don't think, in the fact that it's very small. But if you remember how many people we serve, this stat is for all of Hampton Roads and Outline, North Carolina. So if you think about only 4,095 active listings on the market, that's not very many for this amount of people that live in the Hampton Roads area.
And the amazing thing is, as we've seen closings, because they've kept pace, the closings on single families and the closings on attached dwellings, so that we are getting, it's less than a 1-to-1. Right, I mean, it's actually, it's less than a 1-to-1. Mm-hmm. You sell one, and you only have 0.95 or 0.98 coming back on. So it's going to continue to decline in terms of inventory.
Right. And so, we're very lucky, right? One of the good things about our market, Van Rose, from one of the owners and president of Rose and Womble Realty, he stated yesterday, we're in a great market because we have two high amount of people that are the two main categories of homeowners. We have the millennials who are coming in the job market strong, and we also have the baby boomers who are here and strong in the market. And the problem with that is they're kind of looking for the same house. They want a little bit smaller house. They want all the bells and whistles. They want it pretty maintenance free, turnkey. So we've got the baby boomers and the millennials looking at the same houses. So that's kind of funny. But we do have a strong market, and those are two of our largest home buyers at this point, and we have plenty of those in the Hampton Roads area.
We're going to have to take a break in another minute. I want to welcome Bob Freck to the studio. You were caught in that traffic out there on 64.
No, actually, it was called a property inspection.
Oh,
real estate work.
Real estate
actually,
work.
real estate
work.
work.
Gracious.
Yes.
Well, anyway, we've already introduced you, so you don't have to say anything. We're going to go to break now. And this is the Real Estate PB&J Hour. You're listening to Paul Fuqua, now Bob Freck, and Kim Pimento. When we come back, we'll talk about Starker exchanges and a general discussion of the market and its impact on housing sales and buys here. See you in a minute.
Now back to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9 FM. Rose and Womble Realtor Paul Fuqua gives you the fundamentals of real estate selling, buying, owning, and improving your home.
This is going to be redundant, but you are listening to the Real Estate PB&J Hour, and it's 1310 a.m. or 100.9 FM on your radio dial or on MoneyTalk1310.com. If you have any questions for me or Kim Pimento or the esteemed fellow colleague and realtor Bob Freck, call the station at 757-497-1310. And also, you can always subscribe and listen to past episodes of the PB&J Hour at your convenience on my YouTube channel, The Real Estate PB&J Hour. It costs you nothing. Just dial it up, and you can always turn us off very quickly. I'm going to turn the mic over to Kim because I was not in town last week, and she and Lisa Chandler conducted a very informative show on the important steps to know in the process of renting your home or investment property. It's also advantageous because Bob is here, and he has been a landlord on a number of occasions of beachfront properties down in the Outer Banks. So go at it, Kim.
All right. Well, last week we had Lisa Chandler of the Rose Womble Chandler Property Management LLC, and we talked about a lot of discussions. We talked about why people may want to use a property manager. We talked about what is expected out of the owners of the property. We talked about how do you get started, what you have to do, the setup fees, the monthly fees. We talked about how we handle repairs at Rose and Womble. We talked about service dogs versus emotional support dogs, and can you charge a deposit for those? And the answer is no. You can charge for damages, but you can't charge them deposits. And the difference between service dogs and emotional support dogs, let me reiterate that, is that service dogs actually do something, but they're really service animals. They can be a monkey, they can be a cat, anything, but they have to actually be able to do something. They do train monkeys to do that, Paul.
Come on.
And those monkeys are not called realtors. Okay, trust me, they're not the same, one and the same.
Come on. I'm a service monkey. God.
They turn on light. They can do a lot of things.
Okay, if a rooster lays an egg on the top of the barn, on which side does the egg fall off?
Whichever side's
Gotta ask a good realtor that question.
Think about it.
The angle.
No, guys.
Oh
if a
God.
rooster lays an egg,
the rooster can't lay an egg.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We
Service
talked about
monkeys.
investment loans and what all you need for that 25% down, what kind of credit, what kind of reserves, which you do need to have reserves, which means outside of the money you use for closing. And we also talked about renter's insurance.
Right.
And if you are a landlord out there, your renters should have renter's insurance. And never, ever not have insurance on your rental properties. And that was it.
And remember, too, when you're talking about renter's insurance, when you're in a condominium,
Yes.
okay, and as an owner, not as a renter, and you're living in a condominium, most cases the condominium has insurance on the building and all those kind of things, but your personal property that's inside your unit, you need to insure.
Now,
but as the owners, you'd probably want to insure you'd probably want to keep, for sure, even if you rented out that condo, you'd want to keep insurance on the cosmetic, the walls, the pipes. So don't drop your
full coverage.
Your full coverage
Yes.
if you're renting out that condo.
Yes.
All right, now, today, that's last week. People, you can go to the Real Estate PB&J Hour, and you can just say, I really am anxious to discuss the reality of the market today. I don't know if you caught the lead in, Bob, but basically there is an awful lot of gloom and doom being spread about on the social media, the newspapers, which very few people read any longer, although I do, because that's what we use. I like the bags, the trash. Anyway, and on the newscasts about the state of the economy, and especially as it relates to housing. And
then the rates we quoted today were a little higher than we.
Yeah, so every time there's a minuscule change in the rates, it's 72-point headlines. Rates going up or rates go down. It's funny. They discussed one prognosticator made mention of a rate increase that was significant, and it was 0.1% increase.
Yes,
I don't consider that
I think that's where we experienced realtors that have been, we in this room, we probably got.
We already talked about the years.
How many years combined?
The two of us is over half a century, and then Kim
18 years.
18 years, because she started when she was 10.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we've been through these bumps, these humps in the market, and it's really important that. And I say this, but don't let social media in general, some of the mainline online real estate, in quotations, websites, be your dictator as the information. Get a hold of an experienced realtor and talk to them about what's really going on, because that realtor will also have a very experienced lender. And between the lender and the realtor, you've got the team in your corner that can explain what's really going on, and the lender can sit there and go, we understand this is happening, but there's this program, there's this option, and I'm doing that right now with a young buyer.
Right.
Went out, and first-time home buyer, went out and looked at the first home 2 nights ago. Beautiful house, and figured there would be multiple offers. We got the offer because he was prepared coming in with a good lender that had him all ready to go, and then we put together a smart offer knowing we were probably going to have competition. And the lender he went to, he had gone to a big company out there before he got here from Texas, and I said, hey, would you like to do a second opinion with someone? And he said, okay. The second opinion... is
that a hit on their credit rating?
It is not, because it's a search for it's because of a specific reason, searching for a house and stuff, and the husband and the wife are both VA eligible.
Right.
One of them had an issue though, and one was no longer in the military, but it had an issue to where they were able to waive the funding fee.
Right.
Using the other spouse's VA eligibility, not even the one that's going to qualify for the loan.
Right.
One spouse is VA eligible, is going to use their income. We're going to use the other spouses who's no longer active duty VA eligibility. So
there's no funding fee.
The funding fee was waived because of the and stuff. Save that borrower $6,000 that would have gotten added on to the amount of loan on the final purchase price of the house just by talking to a lender who knew what they were doing. Yeah. Huge difference.
And
right, because funding fees can be quite expensive.
Yeah.
Especially if you've used your loan a couple of times.
It's $250,000 house, and it was going to be $6,000 extra added on to the loan amount. How many years would that take to pay off before you ever got to the original price of the house?
How many times did he use that? Was it his first time using it?
It was first-time home buyer for both of them, but the way we cut the cake is the borrower, we're using one spouse's income.
Right. And the other
one's eligibility. And of course now with VA eligibility and stuff of pushing $750,000, the other spouse will still have $500,000 of eligibility left if they decide to keep this house down the road and rent it and want to go out and do the same thing.
Right.
Right. Well, I think one reason that they need to contact a very experienced agent, is I think in this world of uncertainty, when we saw Mike Staver that Rose and Womble brought in yesterday, he was talking about we're in a world of uncertainty. 33% of the people say that they're depressed. And one thing that we can do is, since markets vary from town to town, I mean, the Portsmouth market is highly different than Chesapeake or Virginia Beach. What we can do is kind of ease you and give you some certainty about the market that we're dealing with, and not
positive.
just what you. Yes, the positive.
It's not. Listen, there's people in this room that remember 17%.
We talked about that earlier.
Okay,
I don't
now you
remember
want to be
that.
negative. I mean, honestly, you want to have some negative. No, there was still people buying houses and financing houses. So you got to be talking to the right people that doesn't see everything as a glass half full.
But you know what? People sometimes don't want to hear about the past like that. They just want to know now.
Right.
Now.
Yes. Well, you can't live in the past.
Correct.
That's why the rearview mirror is so much smaller than the windshield. You can't do that. And when somebody says,
remember that show, the something in the Gallantly Jalopies about the race, and that guy took that rearview mirror off his windshield and said, "What's behind me is not important," and threw away his rearview
But
mirror.
Remember, that rearview mirror for us is called experience.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
Yes,
and so
and
that
is.
experience is what helps us figure
you get a
in.
little gray in your hair and your experience.
If you
I've
have
come
any
to that
hair,
conclusion.
yes, right.
You got to cut it off. But
Right.
Have you seen any direct impact on your practices? You have a large number of agents that report to you, and you've got to see the numbers coming across. Where are you seeing it impact the market that we service, our potential customers, our listings, and our buyers? Have you seen this set of circumstances directly?
Well, tell you the truth, our office is still performing very well as far as like sales and volume like that. But what we're seeing is people are having to do a little bit of not settling, but deciding that maybe they're not going to be able to get what they could get a year ago. And I think people are kind of. But it's still, real estate is still a good investment, no matter what you do. We're running waterfront. We're running out of that, folks. That's not going to be around much longer.
Well, and
that's always going to go
Norfolk,
up.
there's going to be a lot more waterfront.
well, I talked about on the positive side, this same young couple that saved $6,000 by talking to a lender that knew what they were doing.
Right.
Also got $5,000 in closing cost assistance.
That's unusual today.
Now that you think so? Yes. Okay, it's there. But you got to know how to ask for it, and you got to know $5,000 of closing cost assistance.
Yeah. Now I am seeing more of that. Maybe not a really big decrease in prices, but we are seeing more closing costs being paid.
Well, we're seeing a shading of the prices in order to bring people in, and part of that, from my experience, is prices that don't reflect the click-through numbers. Somebody puts a house on at $237,000. Well, that means anybody who's at 225 and below is out, and maybe you'll get the guys at 250 who are looking. They click on how much is this. It doesn't come up in multiples of 7. It comes up in multiples of 5 and 10.
Right.
100, 5,000, 10,000, 25,000, 50,000, 100,000, and then $1 million. Those are the breaks on the click-throughs, and you have to price so you get the click-throughs. The other thing is, my other question is what is it going to happen for the next 5 months?
I don't.
The last quarter of this year.
I don't think anybody knows. Do you even want to? I just think that we're going to have to do our research, be smart, because I don't. Can we even predict that in this type of?
Well, I'm going to go back.
I think
on
we
experience.
can because
it's an election year.
And historically,
it's an election year.
It is, but historically, October has always been a very strong month around here.
Right.
Okay, for sales, if you look back at past sales in various companies and offices and stuff, and we really don't have in Hampton Roads because of our weather.
Right.
Okay, and the military-industrial complex that keeps coming and going, even during the darkest days of 2008 and 2009.
Houses were still selling.
We were still selling, and part of that had to do with the military-industrial complex of having to move people in and out.
Right.
And so we have, and we don't have the seasonal letdowns.
We do, but they're not significant.
They're not significant.
They're blips.
Yes. 1st of January.
Yep.
You better be
That's
ready to do
always.
business because the 1st of January, everybody's coming back out of the holidays, getting ready to look for their houses.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so
And there are
it's
people that won't bring the house on the market because they don't want to have to take down their Christmas decoration.
Correct.
Right.
And I tell them, leave them up till the 15th.
because they look good.
They
and
look
they
great.
make people feel good. They make a buyer feel good when they come walking into the house. So, we're in a. If things are going to get bad, we're in a good market. If
We proved that in 2008 through 2000. The impact, if you start looking at it, was in the higher end, not the
Yes.
affordable
And this
stuff.
is good news for sellers too.
Yep.
We tend to talk a lot about buyers, but for sellers, don't be afraid to put your house on the market after the first of the year because there's buyers out there looking for
Put it
them.
on with me now.
Yes.
Right.
Well, and guess what? There's
but
less
January
competition.
is a little slower, though. Don't
Right.
you agree? I think January is a little
You know,
slower, but by February,
for
we're
whatever
picking
reason,
it up.
I've always had an awful lot of success in December from people who want to buy before the beginning of the year.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
They've been quick closes, and they've come in before Christmas or before Thanksgiving. Then after Thanksgiving, there's a little spurt of activity.
And then
Because
right
people
after
want to be in
Christmas.
before Christmas
Oh,
and
yeah.
New and stuff. So for sellers, don't be this. If you wait till the flowers are out, then the
Yeah.
inventory is
Well,
bigger and you got more competition as a seller.
Folks, we're going to take a break. This is very interesting. I almost hate to. This is Paul Fuqua, and I'm here with Kim Pimento and Bob Freck. This is the Real Estate PB&J Hour. You're listening to us on 1310 AM and 100.9 FM, Money Talk, and or you're on the computer at moneytalk1310.com. Be back in a minute.
Now back to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9 FM. Rosenwomble Realtor Paul Fuqua gives you the fundamentals of real estate selling, buying, owning, and improving your home.
Welcome back. You're listening to Paul Fuqua on the Real Estate PB&J Hour here at Money Talk 1310 AM 100.9 FM. I'm joined in the studio by my good friend Bob Freck and, of course, the magnificent Kim Pimento, who is the managing broker of Rosenwomble's Greenbrier office. Centrally located, folks. It's 20 minutes from everywhere and nowhere.
Yeah, it is a great location.
Yes,
that office
it is.
a great
But,
location.
during the break, we were talking about what makes Hampton Roads different from the rest of the country. Remember, real estate is local, just like politics is local. Real estate is local, and there are factors driving our market that don't exist in Keokuk, Iowa, and don't exist in other parts
Or
of the country.
Tonawanda, New York.
Yes, definitely.
Well,
or Flint,
Yes.
Michigan. you know.
Yes.
I'll tell you what impressed me because I moved here. We'd been overseas, and then we were living in San Angelo, Texas, and moved here, and didn't know anything about the area, and so I acted like a tourist when I first got here. And let me tell you, there is some hidden gems in this area, and it's so cool because you can go from in Norfolk and you feel like you're in a big city. You get that metropolitan feel of Virginia Beach and you're laying out on the beach, and then you can go to Chesapeake and be in the world of suburbs and moms and soccer teams, and then Portsmouth, all the historic buildings, and I just
Then
and
Suffolk.
Suffolk is rural, and I mean we are in Smithfield. We are very, very lucky, and I think what Phoebus and Newport News and Hampton have to offer. Phoebus has just made a big change if y'all haven't been over there lately.
Well, and
I think
here's
we're
the thing.
lucky.
When you have an experienced realtor, time under your belt, you know these things.
Right.
You know, and you know these little gems. And I'll give you a perfect example. A military couple or person who used to live in Hampton Roads maybe 15, 20 years ago.
Right.
And they're looking for a house to buy, maybe a condo, maybe a townhouse or something like that. You know what their parameters are. And for me, one of the places that pops into my mind is this place called Ocean View. Oh,
Yeah.
my. If these folks were here 20 years ago or 15 years ago and you say, I'd like to take you up to Ocean
"Oh,
View,
no."
They'd slap
they
you.
go, there is no way. I'm not going anywhere near Ocean View. And you go, well, there's this also part of Ocean View called East Beach. Let me just drive you up there. Let me
yeah.
just drive around. When they see what has changed in what is known as Ocean View, their eyes pop out of their heads, and it's like the old
Wow.
Ocean View is gone. And if you don't know those kind of things, if you're not familiar with it, that's where that experience comes in from having done this for 20 or 30 years and watch this. You know sometimes where to take somebody that clicks with them
Right.
that they may not find anywhere else.
The great thing the thing that I enjoy and have always enjoyed is explore. I like to get in the car and drive through neighborhoods where I haven't sold a house recently.
Get off the interstate and
I
go through the neighborhoods.
Go the long way home.
Yeah, go a long way home, or I'll go just wherever. So I deliberately try and get lost.
Right.
And find neighborhoods that I haven't seen in years.
And that helps our buyers when they're looking for something and you go, I got a thought. What do you think? What do you think? Let's go
let's go back.
Ask them what their lifestyle is. How do you want to see your lifestyle?
I want to go back.
The area.
I want more opinion out of you, because should prospective buyers shy away from pursuing a home now because of the economy that we're in? We're in an election year. We don't have a lot of housing on the market in comparison to 3 years ago, pre-pandemic. We have rates that have gone up. We have all these negatives floating around there. Should someone consider moving now?
Yes, I think there's a little bit less competition. I think, just like Bob's clients, I think you get some closing costs paid that might help you kind of stay in that same price range. If you can have your closing costs paid, maybe you don't have to, go down in your price level. I believe that there's always the thing that if you buy a house in the right location, it's a good investment.
And I would have to. It's one of the first things I usually ask a prospective buyer, because when we get together, the buyer's interviewing me. How long are you going to be in this house? How long are you going to be here?
Right.
Okay. And the old rule of thumb is if you were in the area for 3 years, you could turn around and sell with the services of a full-service realtor
and break even,
not come to the table with any money. That may not be the same. That varies as the market changes, but you start there. And I remember back when I was in my first Navy squadron, F-14 squadron, out at Miramar in San Diego, and one of my department heads came to me because I was, in the officers' quarters, essentially renting and stuff, and he came and said, whatever you do, every place you transfer to, buy a house. Every single place, without exception, don't rent, even though you're going to be there maybe for 2 or 3 years. I followed that input all those years ago. A couple places I broke even, a couple places I lost a little bit of money, but over the stretch, I did really well on it. And had I not done that and rented everywhere, so the first thing I would do as soon as I hit the ground in my new duty station was to find a realtor and get out looking for a house.
Well, and there's also some tax benefits to that as well.
They're huge.
There's the tax write-offs for having a that's a wonderful benefit that we have here in the United States. They don't have that in Canada.
Right.
Doesn't exist up in Canada. The tax write-off.
We might have to fight to keep ours.
We might, yes.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing about that, Bob, is if you're military, you can rent your house out for 10 years and not have to pay capital gains tax.
And even if you get one of these special mortgages that you're supposed to live in the house for a certain amount of years and all this, military orders trump a lot of those requirements.
Right.
When you have a copy of your military orders, it now allows you to rent. I rented every one of my houses that I lived in: Florida, California, Tennessee, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Outer Banks. Every one I've rented. Like I said, some turned out great, but overall,
well, I remember the first one because we that you did down there in the Outer Banks. That was I enjoyed that.
And that came as a result of having kept a house in San Diego, having kept a house in Florida, doing a 2-for-1 tax-deferred exchange on the California and the Florida house, and buying a house in the Outer Banks with tax-deferred money.
That first house was right on. Your first one was right on the water.
Beach. It was still is. Yeah, even after all these storms, it's still there.
It's still there, but it's not yours anymore.
No, it's not ours anymore.
But, you did very intelligent move, and
it was a great
house.
I have to give credit to Deborah, my wife, because I didn't know anything about the Outer Banks. She said, "Why don't we go down there and look?" And
the biggest mistake I made when I moved here from Washington D.C. was not go down there and buy a beach box.
And your second biggest mistake was getting in the car with me and looking at some of my listings.
Yeah.
I almost gave up the practice of real estate.
Right. We have a guy in our office that says, I need a trashy house. I need a trashy house to flip. And I always think of Bob and Paul.
I got some.
Still, no, there aren't any
No.
trashy houses anymore.
No.
Now, that was the question: should a prospective buyer right now shy away from purchasing the house at this time?
If it fits your finances, don't go in. Don't go into the poor farm. Don't be house poor.
Right.
Buy according to your comfort zone. I always ask buyers 2 questions: what do they qualify for on the loan?
There's gaps, huge
and what
gaps.
do they want to pay on their monthly payment? Often those 2 numbers do not match up.
I have a good friend who was a chief, master chief, and he was in the engine room. So when he came up for air, he always bought a house,
and he had to have sunglasses on because he was going blind to seeing the light.
But he's one of those guys that is, in essence, the millionaire next door.
Yes.
Because he accumulated property all these years.
Real estate.
And it was all real estate. He has owned his house. It's the only house he's ever had in this area, but he had other houses, and he married a wonderful woman, and she had a house, and so they rent that, and
Yes.
there was a family death, and they inherited that house, so he actually sold that. And it's astounding when you think about how successful this man is financially and how set he is for the rest of his life.
And started with real estate.
He
Wasn't
started in the Navy.
Well, right,
down
but
there in the
had an
engine room.
income with a job and didn't buy some
Right.
Taj Mahal somewhere.
But
my
you would-
son Andrew has bought his first house, and he's already got that in his mind.
Now, we have 5 minutes. I'm afraid for my son because he's living up in outside D.C. in Silver Spring, Maryland, working in Columbia. He's accepted a job in California in the San Francisco area.
Wow.
That's wow.
Yeah, that's a high price point.
He's taken a step backwards as far
Yes,
as
if you look
they're
at
paying him a lot more money.
Yeah,
Right.
but that's
Yeah.
living life.
It's like
That'd be
going
nice.
to
But
New
he's-
York City.
Hey, he's 25 years old.
Go for it.
I'd go
Go,
out
you
there.
bet.
You know.
Well, I also think it starts with a mindset. I think you have to have the mindset.
Yeah, so you want to own
Yeah.
and not rent. And
Yeah.
and we've seen people on both sides that, it is what it is. And listen, remember, one of my stories a few weeks ago was my buyer client, 64 years old, and bought his first house.
Think of
And
all
he
the money.
was like a kid in a candy shop. He just absolutely, it was one of the best decisions and most fun he's had in years.
Now, what is the most important thing a homeowner who's contemplating selling his house? What should he really do now? Is there any different approach to the market than, say, 6 months ago
Yes.
or a year?
Yeah.
What is
Well,
He needs to clean it. He needs
to.
fix it.
Well, I agree with
Yeah.
that, but he needs to get a good realtor in
he needs
to help them go through and prioritize.
I like having you on the show.
I mean, seriously, get a good experienced realtor in to help you go through and prioritize what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done, nice to haves, because getting your house, you do the best you can with the finances at the time you have available.
Sometimes, however, when you tell prospective clients the truth, you're out the door.
And if that's the case, then for me personally, it wouldn't have worked because you've got to have a trust between you and your seller or your buyer to have a successful.
I always tell prospective sellers that it's like a little tiny marriage because I'm going to be looking under your beds and in your closet and in your medicine chest because buyers do that.
Yes.
And it's necessary that you have somebody who can be objective, tell you the truth. I have a wonderful little house that was going to go on the market yesterday. But when I went through it last week, it
Wasn't ready.
happen. It was not ready.
And
he
that's
knew
hard to
it.
tell a seller.
No, he knew it. My client is
Well,
he's on
sellers
the ball.
don't give themselves enough time
Right.
to
Well,
get their houses ready. Just
This
like
man
tenants don't give
he's
themselves
lived in
enough
this
time
house
to clean
for
up.
40 years, and it
Yeah.
was full of treasures.
Well, and here's the other
And
thing.
that's the
Because
tough
of this
part.
aura of this real estate market we've had for the last several years, there's still this mentality that I don't have to do any of this stuff.
Right.
It's
That's
just going to
wrong.
sell. I'm going to have this lineup of buyers. All I have to do is put a sign in front.
Well, some agents
that's
actually
not the
told their
case.
sellers that.
Yes.
though.
All right, guess what? We've used up almost an hour. We have 2 minutes left.
This has been so much fun. It has been.
This
was fun.
Well, you missed the first 20
Well, I know
minutes.
that was
That's why-
now it became fun after about the first 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, but Well, both of these gentlemen are wonderful agents, and if you want to get a hold of either one, Bob or Paul, please call 523-4900, 523-4900, Bob or Paul.
That's at
Great
757.
realtors.
Thank you very much.
Or Kim, you can just forward all the calls to me.
Yeah. You have to understand.
I have to rotate that.
You can have folks out there in the real world. You can have friends in the real estate business, but remember that they're competitors, and
Yes.
you try and maintain that steady relationship that without impinging on the competitiveness and vice versa.
And will a friend or a relative have the gumption and the ability to tell you your house stinks?
Yeah, I will.
When it does, okay?
We're down to the last minute, folks.
Yeah, you have to take that feelings chip off your shoulder.
I'm gonna thank Bob Freck and Kim Pimento for being here. It's been a wonderful. We haven't even touched on Starkers other than
We'll get to that next year.
But you're listening to and have been listening to the Real Estate PB&J Hour. It's Paul Fuqua with Rose and Womble. This will be up on the PB&J Hour on YouTube. We thank you for listening, and we look forward to your coming next week, where we're going to continue a discussion of these kinds of elements. Have a great weekend, and thank you for listening and being part of the family.